So every time I'm live streaming, there's always somebody in the chat. Hey, Xnut, it's my first time playing Genshin Impact. Any tips? Where can I get 5-star artifacts? So you know there's always new players. So I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of a retrospective and look back at what Genshin was like. And many new players don't know some of these stuff. I think you guys would find this amusing, especially if you're new to the game. The very first thing that a lot of people don't know if they're new to the game is if you check the resin system, the max cap is 160. I know this is a big issue. We are all whining and complaining about resin all the time. In fact, I have complained about this so much that I've complained myself out of it. I've complained all that I can complain, and I'm so tired of complaining about it. I've just gotten used to it. But the cap before was actually 120 resin. Yeah, 120 resin. So you add another 40 on top of it, you get to kill one more boss, and you got 160 resin. This was kind of a good thing for people who don't play much, who only log in once a day, because if you only log in once a day, then you'd have 160 full resin. But back then, you'd only have 120 full resin if you only log in once a day. But for hardcore players, or just, you know, the general population who log in at least twice a day, or even maybe thrice a day, I don't know, the resin change does not actually do anything. The change from 120 to 160 resin doesn't do anything because you're still generating the same amount of resin at the same rate. So getting a higher cap did nothing for most of the player base. It did nothing for me. I'm sure you would agree. So the 120, 160, doesn't really matter that much. And then another thing that did not exist back then is this one. The concept of condensed resin. So you can condense 40 of your resin, turn it into one condensed resin, and then you get double rewards in domain. So it effectively cuts down the playing time. Back then, this did not exist, right? You'd have 120 resin. If you want to use that in domains, you'd have to run 6 domains. You'd have to run Retracing Bolide in Guyun 6 times to get rid of that resin. But then condensed resin came out. Now I'm a streamer. I go live. I play Genshin Impact. I struggle to get to 2 hours because there's not much to do in the game. You know this. So when condensed resin came out, I actually avoided using condensed resin just so that I can extend the duration of the stream. It was super painful, especially from about patch 1.3456. Because 1.3456 were all filler patches, like a bunch of mini games, just a bunch of mini games and a bunch of errand quests that really did not matter to me, and it did not excite me. Some gliding challenges, Osu, dude. I did download Genshin Impact to play those. If I wanted to play Osu, I would play Osu. If I wanted to play mini games, I'd download Bejeweled or something. Those were painful months for any streamer, I believe. So it used to be that in a domain, once you claim rewards, it would actually drop down on the floor and you have to pick them up. Kind of like when you open a chest. And then some people would grieve if they have Venti or Jean. They would use their burst or their skill to throw the artifacts out onto this cliff. And you wouldn't be able to get the artifacts, but you already used your resin to claim the artifacts. So you lose 20 resin and you don't get any rewards. Luckily, MiHoYo patched it immediately on the next patch. But a lot of people were already affected by the Venti and Jean trolls back in the day. It was such a pain. That happened to me once and I raged. And it was done by Romero. It was done by Romero, my mod. It wasn't even a stranger. Let's go get our expeditions probably. Speaking of expeditions, there was that time that when you put a character in expedition, you would not be able to use that character in combat. Which is insane, especially if you're F2P. You don't have a lot of characters. You would only have Amber, Kaya, Lisa, Noelle, Traveler. If you put 2 of them in expedition, you'd only have 3 characters left. So next patch, I believe 1.1, MiHoYo already addressed that and made it into so that you can still use characters who are in expedition. Also, the wolf boss, it was not repeatable. You couldn't even do it if you already done it this week. So if, for example, if you killed it and then you forgot to claim, you'd have to join a friend and then kill their boss and then get rewards. But there's a problem. If your friend has already done the wolf boss, then you can't go to their world and kill the wolf boss because it's not repeatable. You'd have to find somebody who hasn't done the wolf boss for that week. Next thing we're going to talk about is characters. Guys,
Ow!
Do you remember the
Where
time
did that come from?
when people got Bennett? They would rage, they would post on the Facebook group, they would post on the Reddit, I got budget Dilo. They would whine, they would complain, this character is trash. And now,
Benny's
today,
adventure team,
every
assemble!
single team has a Bennett. Every single player wants a Bennett, has a Bennett. If they don't have a Bennett, they want to get a Bennett. And they gotta level up that talent, the fantastic voyage, to as high as possible. Because fam, Bennett is the best sub DPS 4-star in the game. Nobody compares. He's got amazing healing and a huge attack buff and high energy recharge, which gives you, with just a basic build, 100% uptime on the burst. Everybody would complain, oh, I got budget Diluc, he's trash! You don't even know. 3 months, 4 months into the game, everybody's like,
Where did that come from?
Bennett, S tier, get Bennett, use Bennett. Now, so since we're on the subject of Bennett, I want to talk about the damage test trinity of the game back then. There was no Zhongli, alright? There was no Kazuha, there was no Kujosara. So everybody had to use Bennett, Sucrose, and Mona. These three are the 3 characters you would see on a damage test clip, which was all the rage back then when Tonito wasn't a thing. Everybody would put damage tests of their Diluc, whatever character they choose to. And they would use Bennett with his attack buff, and then Mona with her damage buff, and then Sucrose with her elemental resistance shred. Every video had these 3. They were the holy trinity. And people in the chat, you know, scrubs with the scrub mentality, would complain, oh, you
Notice
have
me,
Mona.
lads, haha.
Try that without Mona. Shut up, dude. That's why it's a damage test video. Oh, you're using food. Shut up. These people are so dumb. That's why it's a damage test video. You use everything that is available to you to increase the damage of whatever it is you're doing. Dude, even to this day, 12 months into the game, people are still complaining about using Mona and using food buffs. Bro, just stop. Also, another character that was slept on for quite a while, although did not get as much hate as Bennett, was Xingqiu. Yeah, this guy was kind of at the same boat as Bennett. When people got him, nobody used him, but he didn't get that much hate. It was only not until about a month or 2 months in, maybe 3 months in, that people started making team calls with Xingqiu and realizing that his burst was mega OP. Well, at the time, it was OP. Back then, dude, when people started building Xingqiu, they're witnessing the power in a pyro comp. People went nuts and everybody started building Xingqiu. Now let's talk about who used to be... Wait, why am I using white blind? Now, speaking of budget Diluc, let's talk about who used to be the best DPS in the game. Diluc. This guy right here, everybody wanted a Diluc. Everybody was re-rolling accounts to get a Diluc. Almost all my friends were re-rolling so that their account, their first 5-star would be a Diluc. I didn't re-roll, I was just happy with whatever my account gives me. My first 5-star was actually Mona. Now, if you look at Diluc today, he's so far from being the best DPS. He is still viable. Don't get me wrong, he's still viable even in high-level content, even in the Abyss. But he's been power crept for far too long. He's actually been power crept in the first month of Genshin Impact. The first banner was Venti. Then 3 weeks after the release of the game came this little arsonist in the name of Klee. And she already out DPS Diluc, and it was only a sign of future things to come. The point is, rip Diluc, that's my point. Wolf's gravestone, more like Diluc's gravestone. Next up is Shang Ling. If you didn't know, Shang Ling was the only spear user in the game. Yeah, we have a lot of spear users now. But if you played this game the first month, Shang Ling was the only spear user in the game. And you had a bunch of different spears. You had the Skyward Spine, you had the Jade Spear, you have F2P Prototype Glitter, you have Favonius Lance, you have Crescent Pike. And there was only one character who could use all of them. There was this build with the Crescent Pike, and you would build her with a 2-piece Bloodstained and a 2-piece Gladiator. And then it would do a lot of damage. The bonus attack from Crescent Pike would do a lot of physical damage, especially because Shang Ling has a high number of hits in her attack animations. And one of her attacks actually has ×4 right here, which means it hits 4 times. So each hit deals bonus damage from Crescent Pike. Everybody was touting that the Crescent Pike Shang Ling was the best, and everybody wanted to build physical Shang Ling. Dude, I'm not joking. We know today that Shang Ling is best used as a pyro sub DPS who spams the pyro nado in any team comp. But back then, everybody was hyping up this Crescent Pike physical Shang Ling meta. It was alright, but people soon realized that there are just way better uses for Shang Ling, and that is, to use her as a burst spammer with a pyro build and then just use any other character who is a better main DPS. Now, we know that Inazuma is new, but what you might not know is this area here, Dragon Spine, this actually also was not in the game back then. We had to wait until 1.2 before this area was unlocked. And you know what it was here before? Just some low poly assets, a bunch of triangles that you can see, and you can even walk on some parts of it. You can glitch into it and see a bunch of low polygon triangles. Dude, we didn't even have any gadgets back then. What did we have? This wasn't a thing, this wasn't a thing, this wasn't a thing. None of these were here. I don't even think there was a gadgets tab back then. I believe the first gadget that we could get was it the NRE? I think this is our very first gadget that we could get, along with the treasure compass. That's when they implemented the reputation system. So back then there was also no reputation system in each of the cities, so there was no way to get any of these gadgets. And when they implemented the reputation system, they implemented the gadgets tab as well. Back then it was an incredible struggle leveling up talents past level 6, because the weekly boss drops, if you were only at AR 30, you would only get one piece of weekly boss drop. So for example, if you wanted to level up your Jean, for example, and you wanted to get the Devalence Plume, you would only get one of this per week, but it's RNG between the Plume, the Sai, and the Claw. So you might end up with a Claw for this week, and you have to wait next week for another chance, a 33% chance of getting the Plume. It was such a painful thing. But what people didn't realize, as you went higher in AR, you would get more drops. You could get 2 drops, you could get 3 drops. Then finally, after months and months, they come out with the Dream Solvent, where you could transmute one weekly boss drop from another. So from a Plume, you can turn it into a Claw if that's what you need. The very first event in Genshin Impact that every OG player got to experience was called the Unreconciled Stars, I believe. Now 1.1 had the Unreconciled Stars event, but during 1.0 we had the Elemental Crucible. Yeah, that's the first one, and that one cost resin, and that was so dumb. Why would it cost resin? We need resin for whatever it is we're planning to do today. You should not be using resin for an event. An event is supposed to be additional gameplay. It's not supposed to take away from your gameplay. It's not supposed to replace your gameplay. It's supposed to be additional gameplay. That's why it's an event. You're not supposed to use resin. Why do we use resin on the event? Mihoyo. So I'm glad they changed that. And now events don't use resin. Pretty good. A lot of things in the game have also been renamed. For example, this one, the Crown of Insight. It used to be called the Crown of Sagehood. There were also some weapons that were renamed. So Prototype Archaic used to be called Prototype Aminus. Prototype Amber used to be called Prototype Malice. And you know why they renamed it to Prototype Amber? It's because it's useless, just like Amber. Do you guys remember Kuchu Slope? There used to be this insanely hard quest here where before you could even do it, you had to collect all of the Geoculus, and then you'd be able to get the 5-star artifact at the end of it. But it was so freaking hard, and you had to really call in the cavalry. You had to call in your friends. I remember hopping from friend to friend, busting out my Noel, trying to help out so they could get their first 5-star artifact. And then when they finally got it, they would get an HP % main stat. Which was so bad. You spent probably maybe 2 whole days to finish getting all the Geoculi and trying to finish this quest, only to end up with a trash 5-star artifact, and that would be your first 5-star artifact. It was this place here, and then you would enter that area there. This right here, this is where I got my very first 5-star artifact. Yeah, good times, man, good times. One of my best experiences, however, and I believe a lot of you will agree with this, is your first time climbing up Qingyun Peak. Your first time trying to climb Qingyun Peak is amazing just because of the experience and the feeling of the unknown and wanting to get to the top. The music on this one is amazing. Ah, boys, the feels. I feel happy for players who are just discovering this game today, because they have such a big map that they can explore. There's so much content that they can do, and it's gonna keep them busy for maybe 2-3 months. Every day they won't be able to sleep. Oh yeah, there was this bug with Shang Ling where if you properly glide backward and then do a plunging attack, you'd be able to plunge horizontally and you'd fly across the map. I'm quite excited for what Genshin Impact has in store in the future for us. I know it's gonna take long months of waiting again. Probably after the last island of Inazuma comes out, we'd have to wait maybe half a year for the next region, assuming they go at the same pace that they've been going at this past year. So there's gonna be a lot of waiting and downtime again for, you know, for all of us. We're probably gonna rant again, where's the content? But at this point, I'm quite used to it, and I think I'll be sticking with Genshin for a long time. It might not be my main game in the near future, but I will still be playing it, still probably making content on it, because I really love the game. It's such a beautiful game. I'll see you when I C6 the Pyro Archon. Let me just let it run out, and I'll leave one enemy, I think.
Ever seen one of these?
Oh. Where'd she throw that?
What? Be easy.
Bro, Aloy! She just assassinated that group.